Time is now 09:30 on 20 December. Interview with Mr. Nelson, Earl Brott. Interviewer is Lieutenant Colonel Robert von Hassel in Latham, New York. Nelson, tell me a little bit about where you were born and grew up.
I was born in Troy, New York on May 26, 1922, and I received my public education in the elementary schools in Troy. And from after I graduated from high school, which was 1940, I went to college for 6 months. I believe it was around 6 months. And in 1941, the war with Japan was declared. Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, so most of our graduating class wound up in the service after 1940. I did have a job from 1940 to 41 in a foundry at Ludlow Valve as an apprentice core maker, which was very, very hard in a foundry. And my foreman told me that I was working in a defense factory, and if I could grant you a deferment if being classified working in the defense factory. And I said, I don't want to. I want to go. So I left the foundry and went in the service. I was drafted in Rennselaer County, and I received my induction down Fort Trelo post down in Rennselaer, and from there, after I was inducted, I went to Camp Upton for a further physical and IQ test. And here's a funny incident. The fellow that I went with had his own pilot's license. He could fly a little Cessna Piper Cub up in the Troy airport, and I went with him, and when we get down to Camp Upton, he said, no, I'm going to take my time on the IQ test and so I can try to get in the Air Force. And I said, not me. I said, I'm pooped. I'm going over to the barracks and go in the sack and go to sleep. I'm tired. So I went over to the barracks and went to sleep. And he come over. This was early evening, 10, 11 o'clock when we get down. And he come over around 1:30 and shook me, and I said, where you been? He said, I took my time on a test. I was trying to get in the air. I said, I roared right through it. Well, they put me on KP the next day, and I was there 36 hours. And I said, hey, Shorty, my name is up on the board. I'm going. He said, what? I said, yeah. He said, where are you going? I said, I don't know. My name is, so I left, went to Convention Hall in Camp Upton, and they played the Bombardier song by Bing Crosby. This was, kind of gave us a feeling of where we might be going. And I didn't know. They put us on a train and pulled all the curtains down. We didn't know where we were going. And I wound up down Miami Beach, Florida for basic training. I got a letter and a card from him. He wound up, I was in the Air Force, I got a letter from, he wound up in Camp Rucker, Alabama in the infantry. And I wound up in the Air Force, down in Miami Beach. So, after basic training of approximately 8 weeks, I believe it was, in Miami, I was sent to Stockfield, Illinois as a radio operator. And I love St. Louis. I liked St. Louis so much, I kept trying to wash back and stay there. Well, I was able to take, you had to take a maximum, I believe, of 22 words a minute, and I think I arrived about 19, and that's when they finally said I was through with radio as an assistant. I was going out as an assistant radio operator from Scott Field, and I went to gunnery school down in Harlingen, Texas, from Scott Field. And down in Harlingen, the first time I became involved in airplanes, a B-24. And we flew in an AT-6 over the Gulf of Mexico and fired at targets towed by B-26 Marauders. They were only a 2-engine medium bomber, B-26, and they hit a tow target they towed at the end, and we flew in the AT-6 and we fired our 50 caliber guns at that target with colored tracer bullets. And so when the B-26 come in with the target, they saw the tracer bullet, the colors of them. They found out how many times we hit the target. That's how they scored us. So I was there for gunnery school. Finally, I graduated as an aerial gunner, and I got my wings from Harlingen, Texas. From there, went up to Salt Lake City to be assigned a crew. And my pilot was Bernard Komazinski. He was our pilot and a co-pilot. And they were instructed at that time, if they wanted to change any member of our crews, this is the place to do it. Because we were trained in every turret on the B-24 bomber. There was 6, the tail turret, ball turret, top turret, 2 waist guns, and then the nose. So we were trained in each turret as to how to operate them. And so Como, he suggested that I was so tall I couldn't fit very well in the ball turret or the tail turret, so he made me a waist gunner on the 2 side windows. We had 2 waist gunners, excuse me. We had 2 waist gunners, and so I was, on my missions, I operated as a waist gunner. The first mission, which was the end of June, I believe it was, 1944, I'll never forget it. I was laying in the bomb bay as we formed over the Gulf, or over the channel, the English Channel. We get into formation before we went in to hit the target. And I was laying in the bomb bay, and I just happened to get up out of the bomb bay and look out the waist window, and there was 2 bombers right alongside of us, and one got in slipstream and cut the other one right in half, and they both went down in the North Sea, 20 men. And I was shaking, shivering, and I was scared on my first mission. I'll never forget that. The 2 bombers collided in midair, and I had to report that back after we landed. So we did finish that mission, the first mission. And I got back, and they always had a bottle of liquor. We never forget that, to calm our nerves when we landed, when we come back. They had a bottle of liquor on the table, Jack Daniels or Seagram 7, I don't know what it was. We just drank it. And to just pacify us and keep us calm. And so then after that, then we went back to our barracks after the interrogation. So I continued on with 5 missions from there on in, periodically to 5 missions. Then on this, the 6th mission, we had a target to be hit in occupied France, an airfield. Perth was the name of the airfield. And we took off, was going over into the target. We didn't get into the IP, initial point, where you start into your target. We didn't get that far. And all of a sudden, our number 2 engine was windmilling, and we couldn't feather it. my engineer had to move from the top turret. He was trying to feather the #2 engine, move out of the top turret, and I had to take his place from the waist, and I had to go up to the top turret with a walk-around bottle, oxygen. We didn't have it wasn't pressurized, you know, the B-24s, the windows were open. And it was 25, I've read in books, the temperature ranged from 25 to 55 below temperature, when we had our electric heated suits and all that on. So I moved up into the top turret, and I was right next to that #2 engine, and I could feel the pressure that the bomber was getting. It was like, I always refer to it, if you put your foot on the accelerator of an automobile and have it in neutral, and the motor's racing, but you ain't going anywhere. And the formation was fine. I could see it pulling away. And I knew we were in trouble. And then all of a sudden, my engineer, he come up into the turret, and he poked this knee. Poked me on the knee and went like that. My parachute was down on the floor because we couldn't fit in the turret with the parachute on with the twin 50s. I had to pick up the parachute. I had the harness on, attach it to my harness, the parachute, and out we went at 20,000 feet. I didn't hesitate. I don't know what presentation that I had, or not presentation, just the act of, gave me the incentive to put that thing on and jump out the plane. So I jumped out and I pulled a delayed fall, which they tried to train you to do, pull a delayed jump. And I fell because we trained at approximately 5,000 feet out in Colorado, and I could estimate approximately 5,000 feet. So I fell between, give or take 1,000 feet, 14,000 feet, before I pulled my ripcord. And I pulled that cord, and they didn't give us no training. This was the first jump, no training in jumping. We never had no training. And here was the handle out in my hand. I thought the parachute broke. And I start jumping around, and all of a sudden that little pilot chute come up. And that brings out the big one. And there I was, floating about 5, 6, 7,000 feet above the ground. And I looked down, and there's a whole bunch of people running out in the field. They see me coming down. And I landed. And I didn't know what to do. My co-pilot he landed about 100 yards away from me. He said, "I'm scared." I said, "What the hell do you think I am?" They all come over, took my parachute, and I think they hid it in the wood. I don't know where, I think they hid it in the woods or something. And they said, "Canadian." I said, "Nick's American." They all clasped me and hugged me and kissed me. Oh, what a feeling that is. You got somebody that likes you. I thought they were all Nazis, all Germans. From there on in, it was a escapade. They walked me over to a hedgerow and said, "Stay there until one of us come back whistling Yankee Doodle Dandy. Then you'll know it's clear. You can come out." So about 2 or 3 hours later, here comes a young girl over with a bicycle, whistling Yankee Doodle Dandy. She gave me old civilian clothes. I had to take all my clothes off, and I had to put civilian clothes on. I was dressed up as a Frenchman with a French tam. And they put me in a truck and covered me over and drove me about 2, 3, 4 miles because the Germans were looking for us. And go down, duck in the woods and hide there until they were walking on the bicycle. When we come up to you, then we'll tell you to come out. They did. They come up to me and come out. They escorted me another distance to a little undercover creek that was running underneath the ground, like you run over a little bridge, a little culvert bridge, and there's water running under there. And they said, stop. And they went, there was somebody down there. They took me. These people went back. These people took me from there, moved me further. Each one was separate, so they wouldn't identify each one. They didn't know, keep separate. So they, from there on, I was in a teepee or a makeshift place to sleep on the ground in the woods. And I was there for so long. And then they took me out of there and I went into a schoolhouse on the second floor, and I slept in the floor on the bed on a soft mattress in the schoolhouse. And they had all the French armbands and all this and that, all the ID French underground armbands for the people. And after I left there, I was informed that one of them got caught with that stuff and they were captured or shot. To me, they said they killed him, that's all I know. And I was moved on into another sheltered area, bivouac underneath, makeshift. And I stayed there and until September. Yeah, in September. I think it was after Labor Day, if I remember. Yeah, after Labor Day. And we used to trap rabbits, snares, set out snares for rabbits. And one time, August 19th, 1944, I had to hold onto a stick. And he took me through the woods. I had pitch black, no moon, no stars, no nothing, just like walking through up in the Adirondacks. And I had to hold onto that stick. And he guided me through the woods. And he came to a little, you know, where they put caskets and vaults in the side of a mountain, a little half moon cut, the big steel vault door. He knocked on the door to make sure nobody. Inside was a woman feeding her baby on a dirt floor. She was working with the underground, with a bit nursing the baby. Unbelievable where they were. So my ultimate goal, I had to go over. They drained out a pond, a dike, opened the dike and let the water out to get it up to where we could walk. And a big net gave me a big one on this end, one on this, and one in the middle. We dragged it all through that to the other end and got all the carp, fish. That's how we survived. Fish, rabbits. And I remember one night we went out and dug up potatoes out of a farmyard or farm. That's where he took me. We dug up potatoes, and that's how I ate. Survived. They took good care. They took very good care of me. But our anxiety and our mental attitude. Oftentimes I wanted to walk out of there and go over the Pyrenees into Switzerland, but they wouldn't let. They stay put for a little while. And as the days went on, I remember they give me a haircut sitting on a tree stump. I can't remember who cut the hair. Somebody come up and give me a haircut on a tree stump, and my co-pilot too. He was with me. And all of a sudden, here comes the tanks. You could hear them. I could hear the Germans retreating down the road. You know, the German and they were going through the retreating, and the tanks were coming through. I ran like a son of a bee down the hill and jumped on a tank. No, I kept saying bonjour, monsieur, bonjour, and the guy's in the tank. I always remember a guy from Buffalo. I only wish I had his name. Bonjour, bonjour. I said, Mistrasa, obscene language. He said, he must be an American. I jumped on the tank, and they were going forward, and the officer come over to me, and he said, where you go? You want to go that way? I said, no, I want to go this way. I want to go back. He said, get off. He threw me off the tank, and I had to go through interrogations. Several interrogations. And before I was released to go to Paris, and they verified my bomb group over in England. And I went to Paris, and the C-47 flew me from Paris over to England. New pair of GI shoes, new socks, jumped in the bathtub, filled the water right up to the top, took a bath, enjoyed myself. But I did go to Westminster Abbey and say a prayer. I kissed the ground. I can't tell you any more. That was my, there's so much that I left out that took place. I can't, for a month, there was an awful lot. If there's anything else you want to ask me, I don't know. That's about all I can recall.
When you got back to England, they didn't return you to flying duty, did they?
There's a, you asked that question. They put me on, being MIA, they shipped me back as fast as they could, got me out of England on account of talk. Loose talk, that's what they told me. And they put me on the Saturnia, an Italian hospital ship. And I went back to United States on the Saturnia. And I went in the convention hall in Atlantic City, a redistribution center. And they wanted me to fly a B-20, go in a B-29, because the war was winding down in September of '44, went till May, I think it was. And they wanted to put me as a gunner on a B-20, I told them no. I refused. I definitely refused to go on a B-29. Even though they were pressurized and easier to, no more flying, I'm done. They said, we're going to send you down to an R&R in Nashville, North Carolina. That's where I went, to an R&R Air Force hotel down in Nashville, North Carolina. Complete relaxation, rest. After I was down there over the holidays, just like we are now, going through the holidays. And when I went back, they wanted to put, that's when I went back and they said, now you're all rested, we want to put you on a B-20, but I refused, I wouldn't go. He said, the only thing we can do is put you in the hospital. I said, that's good, put me in the hospital. I don't care, I don't want to fly, no more. So they cut my orders in Atlantic City to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, a new hospital opening up. I had a girl in Pueblo, Colorado. She's my future wife, my girl, in Pueblo. I met her while I was in Pueblo phase training. And so a guy was coming down the stairs in Atlantic City, Ambassador Hotel, and I overheard him say he'd just come back from Pueblo, Fort Logan, Colorado, Denver, Fort Logan. He said, geez, beautiful hospital. And here's my girl in Pueblo. So I took off by myself and went down to the command CO. And I asked him if I could request a hospital that I could go to instead of Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He said, well, we have to, they're filling up so fast, we have to put you where there's a vacancy, a hospital. Well, he said, well, fine, where'd you want to go? I said, Fort. He thought I wanted to go to Rhodes General in Utica. I said, Fort Logan, Colorado. He said, what do you want to go way out there for on the holiday? I said, my girl lives out in Pueblo. Do you know he cut my orders for Fort Logan, Colorado? I went out all by myself. Geez, it was nice. It was so nice that the way they played, you know, they were friendly and nice. So, you know, war is war and chicken shit and all this stuff, but he was very nice. And I went out to Fort Logan. That's where I got discharged. They give you the flax juice, truth serum, sodium pentothal. You ever heard that?
Yeah.
They give me that. Sodium pentothal.
What'd they give you that for?
To talk, they thought I was bullshitting them all about what I just told you. They wanted me to tell the truth. Well, I call it truth serum. Yeah, they get you start from 100 and count backwards.
Yeah.
When you get about to 80 or 90, whatever, and then they ask you questions, and you answer them. Yeah, sodium pentothal. So the next day they read it back and they said, sorry, you're all done. You're gonna be discharged. That's that.
Did you marry the girl from Pueblo?
Yep, that's my wife. That's what I said, yep.
And then you moved back to New York?
1949, my job was in the post office. I had a post office job, clerk in the post office. And that's where my job was in Troy. I got married out in Fowler, Colorado, and I come back to my job. And that's where my job was, in the Troy post office. And you know what they always called my wife? Jackie Kennedy. That's what she looked like. I miss her. She was nice.
And children? You had?
Five.
Five.
5 children. One's in Fort Campbell, Kentucky right now, 18 years criminal justice. My daughter's out in San Diego, California. My other son, the one that you just saw, is a teacher in the Troy School District, phys ed major. Then I got another son in Manchester, New Hampshire, driving a limousine from the airport. 5 children I had. I just had my wife reinterred from the Oakwood Cemetery in Troy up to Saratoga last September. So she's buried up in the National Cemetery in Saratoga with my baby. I had them both reinterred, and the baby's with my wife. And of course, eventually that's where I'm going, up to Saratoga in the National Cemetery. And so to answer your question, that was my livelihood from the time I got out of the service into the post office. I didn't want to go back to the foundry. That was no job. Well, the security, you know, far better in the post office. So that's what I did after the war. Yeah.
Let's go back to when you first were in England and your first missions. What was a typical day like when you were flying?
What was the day like? Well, we got up at 3 o'clock in the morning for breakfast. And then we went to, what kind of hall where they raised the map up and show you where you're going? They pinpoint the target?
The briefing hall?
Briefing hall. This is like my first mission. That's what you asked me, ain't it?
Right.
So this was what took place on the first mission. Breakfast, getting in the 5-track, or hauling us to the briefing room. Clergymen saying prayers, and us guys contesting why we have to go over to the flak area instead of going over here where there's no flak. So other than that, and our final training was in Ireland, in the Neeson hut in Ireland. I was writing a letter, and we had 45s issued to us, and we were scared. This was going to be the last, like I was just relaying my first mission over in England. we were thinking about taking the 45 and shooting off our big toe. Then we wouldn't have to go in combat.
But you didn't.
Oh, no, I got 5 toes. And the one thing that I remembered, never forget, landing in England at our Neeson hut permanently, and pulling us in there with just a night light on, completely, just like a night light when you go in your bedroom. And whoever, I forget who the sergeant, take any bed that you can find for your sleeping bed. This was in the middle of the night, and I walked over past the bed and I said, "What's he doing? He's got a Bible. He's sleeping on the Bible. He's going out tomorrow morning." See what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So you'd go out and fly a mission, and then you'd come back. You might not fly again for a few days.
That's right. Yeah.
What
Right. Yeah.
What were you doing? What were you thinking between missions?
And how could I avoid going out on another mission? Is there anything that I can possibly do to avoid going out on another mission? Because when we first went over there, you do 25 missions and you were sent home.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to 21, 22, 23 missions, boom, goes up to 30. Then it went from there, and here, from 30, moved it up to 35. I'm in a guy with in the choir over in the VA hospital. He did his final missions, and he always said they didn't raise it up to 35. I'd finish my 30 missions and come home. But when they going to move it up to 35, the doctors interceded. These guys are going Section 8. They're going off the wall. Like, in between missions, yeah, what can I do to avoid going out? How can I? But you don't want to be a coward. You don't want to be a coward. You want to go. Jesus, that'd bother your conscience not to go with the other. Yeah, that's what goes through your mind. If you only could go from one day to day, but you can't do it. It's too nerve-wracking. It's too, to answer your question, that's some of the things you thought, like just what I said about shooting,
Right.
That's the thoughts that go through your mind. You're scared. And we threw chaff out the waste windows.
Right.
For flak. Box loads of chaff. That's like the tinsels on your Christmas tree to screw up the radar. Mm-hmm. And you see the flak back here and your bombers up here. So all them things, everything you did to preserve self-preservation for your life. And to see individuals get hit with flak and be carried off the book, hey, you get scared. Yeah, you get.
What concerned you more on a mission, the fighters or the flak?
Enemy fight. You're talking about
Yeah.
enemy fighters, because we had P-51s. We called in fighters, P-51s, to escort while we're going down the parachute. They were surrounded. P-51s were helping us as we bailed out. But fighters was our main, ME-109s was our main concern. They looked, In fact, it was hard to detect at a distance an ME-109 from a P-51. And yeah, fighters was our main, fighters, enemy fighters, not their, we had escort fighter planes, P-47s, P-51s, and fighters was our main, yeah.
When the resistance was helping you get out of the way of the Germans in occupied France, what were you thinking about in terms of your family at home?
There was no way. August 8th is when we went down, and as you see on that telegram, that was sent August 19th. So there was no way through the Red Cross, you could get no correspondence to your family to let them know that you're alive. All the while it was laying on in bivouac, that was the main concern. That your family did not know. I still got my letter that I sent home from the first day I got back, that I sent through the Red Cross home. I think it was September 19th. And to let them know that I was alive and safe.
And that was the first news your family had, that you were
Right,
okay?
right, yep, yeah.
Well, looking back at it all now, 50, 60 years later, was it worth it?
No.
Why not?
The way the country is today? No.
You feel
No.
like,
No.
could you tell me a little more about that?
Just to what we went through the last presidential election, and I've been involved in a lot of politics. Politics is the only profession in America where one man will step on another one's face to climb. I don't believe in that. A man that's capable with intelligence to run the country, not to be elected by a politician. I don't believe in that. I lost faith in the government. I lost faith in the government. McNulty, I had a lot of faith in Sam Stratton at that time, the way things were run. The Vietnam War, that divided us. Now you're hitting on a target. The Vietnam War, now this political thing, this is a political division, what we're going through for the next 4 years. The Vietnam War divided us. I don't want to see anybody politically. I wrote a big article on the Vietnam War in the paper, an editor. We're fighting Vietnam War 10,000 miles away, and the Monroe Doctrine, which was completely violated, as Jack Anderson of the Washington Post said, Cuba is 90 miles away. We haven't lost one life there, but we did 55,000 in Vietnam. I didn't believe in it. I told my son, he was number one, Gary, when Nixon was president. His birthday come up, number one. I come home from the post office and laid on the bed, start crying. I says, Gary, you're not going. I got, my son-in-law is a graduate of RPI, is from Canada, hockey scholarship. I says, go on up to Canada, live with his mother, be it who the hell was it? Cassius Clay, conscientious objector, join the National Guard. You ain't going to Vietnam. After what I went through, you think I want him to go through? No. To answer your question, this is why I don't think it was worth it. Directly. I gave you two good examples why I don't think it was worth it. Do you think I would have, if I had known beforehand what was going to happen to me, would I have done what I did to the way things are today? We're in disarray, the country. In the next 4 years, here's Bush. His father worked with the CIA, director of the CIA, working with Noriega. Noriega in Panama. That's his father.
When you do think back on World War II,
Yeah.
is there anything in particular that comes back to mind more than anything else? When you look back?
World War II?
When you were flying in Europe? Something that sticks in your mind more than anything else?
In fact, my brother-in-law is D'Alessandro,